AI, everybody's heard about it. Most people are using it nowadays. Is it good or is it evil? Where does this play in? I've had a lot of people ask me. I've had people send me things, various things on it, and it's a valid question. With all the talk about AI, these AI companies, obviously ChatGPT, Christians are wondering, right? Where does this fit into our worldview? Should we be afraid of it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it, going to take over the world? Right? People saying a bunch of different things. But we have to remember when it comes to technology, the answer is pretty simple in the fact that it's going to depend on how it's used. And more importantly, what worldview is guiding it, right? So let's be clear, first and foremost, though, AI is artificial intelligence. It's not actual intelligence in the sense that, it doesn't have a soul, it doesn't have consciousness or moral awareness. It's software, algorithms. It's programmed and designed by human minds. And that right there is actually key. All right, we have to remember human minds designed it. AI didn't design itself. It didn't birth itself, right? Humans designed it. Just like a painting, it points to the painter, a program points to the programmer. AI points to the intelligence of the human designers that designed it. And those human minds, brilliant as they were, in turn, those point to the ultimate mind, God Himself, who made us in the image with the ability to reason, the ability to create, the ability to build things like AI, as complex as it is. We look at AI and we think automatically, well, obviously somebody designed that. You know, who's behind that? That's your first question, right? It's common sense, it's logic. But then people look at the old, not the ultimate, but they look at our minds as complex and as really insane complexity as it is. And some people don't think logically, well, what designed that, right? If everything in our life, every watch has a watchmaker, as the saying goes, then why do we not think the same thing about God, right? So, anyways, back to I'm getting a little bit off on a tangent, but in that sense, AI actually confirms our worldview, right? The Christian worldview. You don't get intelligence from matter alone. Intelligence comes from a mind. If you need human minds to create artificial intelligence, doesn't that suggest that natural intelligence, like ours, ultimately comes from a greater mind? Now, back to the issue of AI, or not necessarily an issue, but could it be misused? Absolutely. Technology has been a double-edged sword since, it was created. The same tool that can heal, a hammer can build a house, it can also crush in a skull, right? It depends on whose hand it's in and why it's being used. That's why the moral component is so important. That's why it matters, right? It's the user who determines its purpose. The same is true with AI. So for Christians, the question isn't, is AI evil? Should I avoid it if I'm using it in my part of the end times? But how do we use it to honor God? Can it help us share truth faster, analyze scripture deeper, reach people who have never stepped into a church, have never heard the truth? Yes, absolutely. But can it also spread lies? It can deepen deception. It can replace human accountability. Absolutely. Sadly, yes, it can, right? So that's why we need wisdom, the kind that comes from God, not from programming, not from a code. James tells us if you lack wisdom, ask God. Because as AI grows in power, and it's going to, our dependence on God, His truth, it's got to grow even stronger along the way as well. We can't outsource morality to machines. We can't delegate conscience to the programming, to code. So my personal opinion is absolutely use AI, but don't let it use you. Let it serve your mission. Don't let it replace your mind. Remember, no algorithm it can love. No program can pray, have a relationship with God. No machine can replace the soul that God put in you. He breathed it into you. Artificial intelligence, very impressive, but it will never be divine. It'll never be God. Only God creates life. Only God defines truth. And only He gives the wisdom to use technology for good, not for evil. So that's where Christians come in. right? To bring light, to bring truth, discernment into every space, even the digital ones with complex programming like AI. All right, so I hope that shed some light on the people that were wondering. Very interesting topic, very interesting to think about. So God bless, take care, and I will see you back next time. Bye.